Missiles flash in the night sky. A strike hits a convoy outside a Libyan city. Officials call it self-defense, counter-terrorism, a necessary action to protect our security. But step back from the smoke for a second. How did we get to a world where foreign jets and drones hitting targets in Libya feels normal? To answer that, we have to go all the way back to a 4-day coup in Iran in 1953. This is the final episode in our series. We've gone from Iran to Cuba to Jamaica to the nuclear file to Libya's 2011 war. Tonight, we're going to connect it all to one simple, brutal question. Why is Libya still being hit from the sky, and what does that say about the world we live in now? Go back to Tehran, 1953. Mohammad Mossadegh tries to nationalize Iranian oil, to wrest it from a British company and put it under Iranian control. In response, British and American intelligence organs launch Operation Ajax. Fake protests, planted stories, bought-off politicians, pressure on the Shah. Within days, an elected government is gone. A more compliant monarch rules. Oil returns to foreign-backed control. That operation didn't just topple one leader. It taught powerful states something bigger. They could overturn other people's governments in secret and get away with it. It created a mindset, a belief that some countries' sovereignty is negotiable if they step on the wrong interests. From that point on, the idea of acceptable and unacceptable governments became part of the global playbook. And once you decide some states are fair game, the tools you use only get more sophisticated. In the decades after Ajax, the tools evolved. Covert coups in Latin America and Africa, destabilization campaigns in places like Jamaica, failed invasions, and decades-long embargoes against Cuba. Each case looked different on the surface. Fighting communism here, stamping out terrorism there, keeping stability somewhere else. But the pattern was similar. If a government threatened key interests, resources, alliances, strategic geography, it could be weakened, isolated, or removed. As technology advanced, so did the means. Satellite intelligence, precision bombs, drones that can loiter for hours over foreign skies. The old tools of propaganda and proxies didn't disappear, but now they were backed by weapons that could hit anywhere without a single soldier crossing a border. What started as secret coups and deniable operations gradually turned into an accepted part of how powerful states do business. Sanctions, covert action, and, when the moment feels right, standoff strikes. Always justified with new language, always following familiar logic. Libya became a showcase for this evolution. In 2011, an uprising against Gaddafi collided with a long history of hostility between Libya and Western powers. A UN resolution to protect civilians opened the door to a NATO air war. Officially, foreign forces were neutral referees, stopping an imminent massacre. In practice, their strikes gave the rebels the edge they needed to overthrow the regime. Gaddafi was killed, the state collapsed, and Libya slid into a long, grinding fragmentation. After that, Libya stopped being a unified country in the eyes of many foreign planners. It became a space, a place where armed groups, smugglers, and extremists moved, and where regional powers could act when it suited them, sometimes with jets and drones, sometimes with local proxies. And here's the key. Once a state is broken like that, it's much easier to justify hitting it again and again. You're no longer violating a strong, sovereign government. You're just striking targets in a place the world already thinks of as a permanent battlefield. So why are airstrikes still happening in and around Libya years after the 2011 war? The official reasons change: targeting extremist groups, hitting arms depots, stopping alleged smuggling routes, striking militias linked to foreign rivals. Sometimes it's regional states, acting in the name of their security, claiming that hostile forces are using Libyan territory as a launchpad. Sometimes it's global powers, conducting counter-terrorism operations. And as new conflicts flare in the wider region, Libya's fractured landscape becomes a tempting arena to hit adversaries indirectly. In each case, the pattern is similar. A target inside Libya is framed as part of a bigger threat. Cross-border strikes are justified as necessary, limited, surgical. The broken condition of Libya's state makes opposition weaker, legal lines blurrier, and outrage more muted. From the perspective of those launching the strikes, Libya is a convenient place to send a message. You can hit an ally's enemy, disrupt a weapons flow, or appear tough on terrorism, without the same diplomatic cost you'd face bombing a strong, unified state. And behind each new strike is a long chain of earlier decisions. The choice to bomb in 2011 without a plan for what came next. The choice to treat Libya as a space, not a country. The choice decades earlier to normalize the idea that some nations can be reshaped from the outside whenever they cross the wrong lines. Put Iran's 1953 coup next to Libya's 2011 air war and its aftermath. Add in Cuba's revolution and embargo. Layer on Jamaica's destabilization, the nuclear standoffs, the proxy conflicts in other parts of the Middle East. You start to see one story told in different dialects. A story about who gets to decide what stability looks like, who's allowed to control their own resources, and which borders are truly respected, and which are treated as suggestions. Libya is still being hit today, not just because of what's happening inside Libya, but because for 70 years powerful countries have trained themselves to see some places as permanent arenas, not as homes. Once a country is put in that category, every crisis becomes another excuse to act, and every action makes it harder for that country to ever climb out. It's tempting to look at each strike as an isolated event. This convoy, that warehouse, those militants. But the deeper pattern is about impunity. The quiet acceptance that certain skies are always open to someone else's bombs. So what do we do with this knowledge? We can't rewind 1953. We can't undo 2011. We can't uninvent drones or air campaigns. But we can change how we see the next crisis. We can stop accepting at face value the first justification we're given for sanctions, coups, or strikes. We can ask, whose interests are really being protected here? Who will live with the consequences after the headlines move on? For people living in places like Libya, Iran, Jamaica, or any state caught between rival powers, this isn't an academic question. It's about whether their country ever gets to be more than a battlefield or a cautionary tale. Whether their children grow up under skies they can trust, or skies that always belong to someone else. From Operation Ajax to airstrikes over Libya, one thing is clear. The world we live in didn't just happen. It was built, piece by piece, decision by decision. And if it was built, it can be changed. If you've made it all the way through this series, from Iran's 4-day coup to Libya's long war, thank you. You're part of a small group of people who want to understand the full story, not just the sound bites. If this series opened your eyes or gave you language for things you've always felt, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who still thinks these are random, disconnected events. In the comments, tell me this. Knowing what you know now, what would real security look like for Libyans, for people in countries like Iran or Jamaica, and even for citizens in the powerful states that launch these interventions? I'll be reading.